What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for Week 9 Premier League predictions. Here are the winning accumulators since the last Premier League video. We also had the Champions League Wednesday night fourfold come in yesterday as well. You can pause the screen and read these if you want, but one thing I did want to highlight here, this wasn't a winner, but thanks to Nottingham Forest winning against Crystal Palace, Arsenal losing at Bournemouth was the only thing that saw the speculative 6-winner sixfold of the Premier League not come in at odds of 80 to 1. Look at that. Aston Villa, Leicester, Nottingham Forest, and then, yeah, Arsenal fell to Bournemouth. We've also had 3 match days in the Champions League so far, and I've actually correctly predicted and tipped all 3 of Sporting's correct scores, as you can see up there. Now, that would be like, 350, 400 to 1 if you could put all 3 together, but still. Shout out to all the members that have joined us on the YouTube Members Club since the last video, and flashing up on the screen are all of you that are supporting the Patreon and have been since we've started doing it. If you want to get a shout out in each and every single video, exclusive members, tips and accumulators, and also access to our members only group chat, then click the link using the description. The group chat is very, very active. There's a lot of people in there. I know quite a lot of you, your names and everything like that, and you also pitch in with your own tips and accas, even for other sports. We had NFL in there the other day, so if you want to get involved, then click the first link in the description. But kicking off, we have Friday night football for Leicester up against Nottingham Forest. Now, as I just mentioned, Nottingham Forest came off with a 1-0 win against Crystal Palace, and Leicester 2 days prior to that, so they've had a couple days more rest, beating Southampton from 2-0 down to win 3-2 in the dying moments of the game. Leicester with back-to-back wins, and Forest currently in 8th place in the Premier League, looking very, very good. Now, I think a couple of years ago, I probably would have predicted this to be a Leicester win and both teams to score. And although Leicester are getting some wins together and they've played decent football, they tend to score goals, Nottingham Forest have become a pretty tricky team to beat. So I do think this is going to be a draw. So I'm going to go for Leicester City 1, Nottingham Forest 1. And the tip is actually going to be Forest double chance and under 3.5 goals at 1.86, because a lot of Nottingham Forest games were basically under 2.5, and in fact on the Patreon with regards to the Monday night game against Crystal Palace, one of the accas I tipped Forest to win outright, but the other one, again, I tipped Nottingham Forest double chance and under 3.5 goals at about 1.6, because they have low scoring games, and although Leicester do score goals, I think this will probably be under 3.5 goals, so that is going to be the prediction there. Now next up we have Aston Villa up against Bournemouth. Aston Villa currently top of the Champions League after beating Bologna 2-0, and Bournemouth, of course, beating Arsenal 2-0. I think at Villa Park, Aston Villa are going to be too much for Bournemouth, but I do think Bournemouth are going to score. I really love this tip. I'm going to go for Aston Villa to win 3-1, and the tip is Villa to win and both teams to score at 3.4. Now, we tipped on Patreon last week, Villa win and both teams to score at 5, and they ended up winning 3-1. I don't see why Villa don't win this one, especially at home at Villa Park. Now, after this, the value doesn't stop. Another great game, Brentford up against Ipswich. Now, Brentford lost out last week to Man United 2-1, and I said in the video I originally predicted Man United 2-1, and then I bowed out and went 1-1 in the end, and Ipswich lost to Everton, and I actually tipped Everton to win over on the Patreon. And that's the thing, in my video I said it would be a 1-1 draw, but come the day of the game I changed my tact a little bit and thought that Everton would win and tipped that there. So that's another perk of the Patreon, is you get up to date on the day predictions as opposed to predictions a little bit ahead of time, where maybe I haven't had obviously as many days to think about the result and I can't change my mind once it's online. But still, this is something I will not change my mind with. I think Brentford are going to beat Ipswich here, and I'm going to go for Brentford to win 2-0, and the tip is going to be Brentford to win at 1.7. After this, it's Brighton up against Wolves, and I was very, very close to doing a very, very high odds tip here, but I've just stayed away from it. Brighton obviously beat Newcastle 1-0 at St James's Park, which is an absolutely incredible result, and Wolves looked like they were going to take a point from Manchester City, and then John Stones scored a last-minute header, controversially, with Bernardo Silva potentially in an offside position impeding the goalkeeper as the header was coming in. But in fairness, I don't think it would have been saved even if Bernardo Silva was there, but I do feel like you have to take that into account, so I'm not really sure where I stand on that, to be honest, and what difference does it make. But I'm going to go for Brighton to get a win, and I'm going to go for Brighton to win 2-1. Now, the thing is, even though Wolves have only got 1 point, they have scored in every single game in the Premier League this season, except for on match day 1 when they lost to Arsenal. They've scored in every other game. Wolves have been pretty unlucky to be on only 1 point, I'll be honest. So I definitely think Wolves are going to score because, like I said, they score in every game. They scored twice in the cup tie against Brighton and lost 3-2. But they've scored in every other game. They scored 3 against Brentford. They score goals. They just can't defend. And with a team like Brighton at the Amex, they're going to take advantage of that. So I'm going to go Brighton 2-1. The tip is both teams to score at 1.61. Like I said, that's come true in all but the first of Wolves' Premier League games this season. And also, obviously, other than one score draw for Wolves, Wolves have scored and lost every game apart from the score draw and the loss 2-0 to Arsenal. So I did think about tipping Brighton to win and both teams to score at around 3, but I've just gone with both teams to score in case Wolves finally get a result that I feel like they deserve. They haven't been as bad as Southampton, put it that way, to be on only 1 point. Now, speaking of, they are travelling to the Etihad. It's Manchester City up against Southampton. Man City coming off of a 5-0 win against Sparta Prague. I predicted 5 goals in that game. I also said to my friend that I think Haaland would score. I said 2 or 3, and Haaland scored 2. It was about time. It feels like we haven't heard the name Erling Haaland in a little while. I think Man City are going to batter Southampton here. I know logic and statistics suggest that Southampton are going to score, but something tells me that they're just not. So I'm going to go for Man City to win this one 4-0, and I'm going to tip the same thing I tipped for Man City against Sparta Prague at the same odds. Man City halftime, full-time at 1.44. The odds are so abysmal for everything. Man City halftime, full-time is going to be the pick. Probably 1-0 halftime and then 4-0 full-time. It's going to be a high-scoring second half at the Etihad. After this, it is Everton up against Fulham. This is one of the trickiest ones to predict of the week, I think. Fulham could get a result. Everton could get a result. I think this is going to be one of 3 scorelines. 1-1 or 2-1 either way. So by that logic, I'm going to meet in the middle and say 1-1. And I'm actually going to press the button on a very high odds tip here. Something I don't tip that often. But I'm going to tip draw at 3.3. Now, the temptation was to tip both teams to score, and that allows for a score draw. It essentially allows for all of the 3 outcomes that I suggested. So if you want to go both teams to score, definitely do. But I have, in the past, thought about both teams to score at Goodison Park, and it ended 0-0. And I think Everton and Fulham recently drew 0-0 against each other as well. So the draw adds 0-0 to, basically the potential outcomes that this tip could come in. So if you're confident that there's not going to be a 0-0 draw, definitely back both teams to score. But if you think it could be double donuts and you like the value and you're going to risk it, perhaps go for draw at 3.3. Now after this, it's Chelsea up against Newcastle at Stamford Bridge. I really like these odds again. I've got a lot of time for Chelsea, as I've said. We predicted they'd lose 2-1 to Liverpool. That's fair enough. They do have European football today. I'm not even sure who they're against. I haven't yet done all the research for my Patreon post that will be up on the Patreon by the time you're watching this video. I haven't collated that post yet. I thought I'd record first. So I'm not quite sure who they're playing. But Chelsea, Newcastle, I think they're going to win here at Stamford Bridge, and I'm going to go for Chelsea just to win 2-0. But the odds, Chelsea to win at 1.8. Phenomenal odds. I think they're going to do it. Afterwards, we travel to Selhurst Park for Crystal Palace up against Tottenham. A lot of people were unsure if Tottenham were going to beat West Ham last week in the Premier League. I said Tottenham would win 3-1, and my highest value tip of the week was Tottenham to win and both teams to score at 2.6. And as soon as West Ham took the lead, I thought, here we go. This is it. Tottenham are going to win. I was confident they were going to win when West Ham took the lead, and they did. They went 1 better than I predicted and won 4-1. I think it's going to be a very similar tale here, and I'm going to go for Tottenham to win 3-1, but I don't need to go for Tottenham and both teams to score because the odds of Tottenham to win at 1.8 are going to be my pick. That's good enough for me, and I think they're more than capable of winning 2-0, 3-0 as well. Palace haven't been looking that great. They obviously couldn't score against Nottingham Forest, so I'm going to say Tottenham win 3-1. Tottenham to win is the tip at 1.8. Now, after this, it is West Ham against Manchester United. West Ham have had a pretty poor start to the season. Yes, they beat Ipswich with both teams scoring, of course, and I did predict that. But Man United, they're putting some results together. Again, they're in European action tonight. I don't know how they're going to get on against Fenerbahce. That's going to be a tasty fixture. So West Ham will be more rested. I think West Ham could get a result, so my tip stays away from the result market. But I got burned last week, initially feeling like Man United would win 2-1 and then opting for a draw. So I'm going to go for it this time. Man United to win 2-1. But the tip is going to be both teams to score at 1.5, just in case we get that draw. Or even if West Ham win and both teams to score. I don't see Man United keeping West Ham out, but surely West Ham don't win to 0. So both teams to score at 1.5 is my pick there. The final game of the week, it's Arsenal up against Liverpool. Arsenal beat Shakhtar Donetsk 1-0. Unfortunately, Trossard missed a penalty, so it wasn't 2-0. And Liverpool beat RB Leipzig 1-0 to be the only team with Aston Villa top of the Champions League with 3 out of 3 wins. Now, I was quite shocked at the odds here. I know Arsenal beat Liverpool 3-1 at the Emirates last time in the Premier League, but Arsenal have got a lot of injuries to contend with. Odegaard is still out. Saka is a doubt. Calafiori came off injured in the Champions League. There's other injuries as well, and I just think with the loss against Bournemouth, it's all come at the wrong time. And I just think Liverpool are unstoppable. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I don't think Arsenal fans would be happy with that. I think Liverpool fans would be more happy with a draw at the Emirates than Arsenal would be, to be honest. I hope Arsenal win. I hope they prove me wrong. But Liverpool look very good this season. So my tip is going to be Liverpool double chance at 1.6. I hope I'm wrong. Arsenal definitely could win this, but with the injuries, it's the injuries that are making me pick this, and Arsenal are still favourites at home. Granted, yes, it's at home, but they're favourites with all these injuries, and against Liverpool, I don't know. I hope we win, but I'm going to go for a draw and say Liverpool double chance. Some potential high odds picks that I've got for you here is Man United and both teams to score at 3.75, Tottenham win to 0 at 3.75 if you're feeling brave, and Liverpool to win at 3. If you're feeling brave. But that is going to do it for this video. If you did enjoy it, please do drop a like, subscribe down below, and I will see you in the next video very soon. Don't forget to check out the Patreon down below.